What happens when you don't tip? In Canada, BC tipped around 810% because didn't have enough change on me and the server literally ran out of the restaurant questioning me. Never went back LMAO. From experience. Only done it once. Story below. You get yelled at and called an asshole. An hour after our delivery was supposed to arrive, we called the restaurant. They assured us that the driver had left with our food over an hour ago. 30 minutes after that, he showed up. Food was ice cold. Driver and food both reeked of weed. My friend tips in bills. In Canada, so smallest bill is $5. So he tipped on first drink, but not on second, and was going to tip on third. But when he didn't tip on second drink, she called him a cheapskate and wouldn't serve him for the rest of the night. We never went back to that bar. Staff in a bar in Canada stopped serving us. We'd had 2 rounds and thought that we would tip at the end when we left. Like in a restaurant. But we couldn't get a third drink because they just completely ignored us. We're from the UK and we knew we should tip but thought at the end was the way, apparently not. When I was in the US, I got followed out of the place and yelled at by the server. I live in Australia. Nothing happens if you don't tip. We aren't expected to tip here. And if a restaurant, or other service, asks for tips, people are annoyed. Luckily not too many places doing that over here yet, but it's increasing. Here in the USA, most you're gonna get is a dirty look and probably shamed on the internet with some viral post. Similar to the other 6 million viral posts about not tipping, because how the hell will waitstaff manage if we, the consumer, don't pick up the difference between server pay and what they should be making? Which doesn't matter in my state because servers make, at least, minimum wage without that infernal server pay that other states use as a loophole. In Sweden, the tip is included in the bill. If you want to tip anything over that, you may. I have never heard of anyone ever receiving repercussions because of not adding to the tip. Edit. And of course, this is only in restaurants. Not fast food. Just regular restaurants. Tipping does not exist outside of those. In the Nordics, nothing. Tipping just isn't a thing here, and preferably never will. US. If you don't tip for takeout, no problem. If you don't tip for sit down, you probably don't want to go back to that place because you might be retaliated. The server wishes death on you. Other than that, nothing at all. A friend of mine was from France, where we don't tip. In the USA for the first time, unaware of the tip thing. When he left without tipping, the waiter screamed at him and was so angry. He could not figure out why at the moment. I love Europe heart. In the USA, if you're found to be a non-tipper consistently, you're going to find your services consistently put to the back of the line in many establishments. I live in the UK, where the staff are paid well, and tips are not mandatory. If I feel I got what is expected from the staff in restaurant, I don't tip. If I feel I got more service than expected, I round up. My friend almost died for not tipping. I was on a long train ride in India with a friend who insisted we go first class for the 30+ hours ride. We had food brought to our cabin and we didn't tip, as mostly in India until that point we never did. At some point, the waiters started demanding tips, but my friend didn't agree. He said he paid enough for the fare and you don't tip in India. I saw they gave us good service, and since they asked, I tipped. He was hospitalized for food poisoning the day after that ride. 100% from the food on the train. 99% on purpose. I once got such terrible service at a restaurant that I left a $50 bill. The waitress intercepted me in the middle of the crowded restaurant to demand, "What is this?" Quote, I got to explain loudly. "You never brought us our drinks. You messed up both of our orders. You forgot to bring the tortillas for the fajitas and promised to bring them later. But never did. We wanted dessert but we waited nearly an hour and you never came back." Quote, in my country? Nothing. Tipping is not mandatory and many people only tip if the service was extra good. Some people just round up the price. I personally don't tip every time. I usually do if it's an evening. Not for lunches. Though I might round it up if the waiter was nice. Based on how much I liked the place in general. Staff was nice and food good? Tip. Was it meh? Round up. Was it bad? No tip. I never received negative feedback for not tipping and honestly if I did, I wouldn't return. It's unprofessional to demand extra money. Of course I'm aware the situation is different in US. I would tip there every time. 20 years ago we were followed out by a waitress in NYC asking us what she did wrong. Awkward. UK nothing. Minimum wage is in place to cover wages. Tip if service experience is better than you expected.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. TooAfraidToAsk is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.